Greetings and welcome to another episode of Keys to Your Best Life, special edition with my brother, Troy Beasley. We are talking about kind of all things recovery. And we're not, when you hear the word recovery, you automatically think about recovering from drugs and alcohol or recovering from surgery. What we're talking about is life recovering, okay? So you never know what you're going to get on this broadcast. So I encourage you to make sure that you watch the episodes and share them out with people because we're going to talk about some serious topics. And today we're talking about something very powerful. And it's about healing the wounded inner child within you, but through Christ, okay? Through the lens. Everything on this podcast we do is to glorify God, but it's also to help you understand that, listen, it's okay to not be okay. It's just not okay to stay there, all right?
Yeah.
And we want to give you the tools and the nuggets. Now, we are not saying these broadcasts by any means replace your counseling or the program you're working, anything like that. These are to encourage you and know that there can be transformation in your life. So, Troy, welcome back.
Well, we're glad to be here, man. It's exciting. We're rolling along. How many episodes are we in? 4, 5, 4?
Something like that. We're just going to keep kicking them out until we just run out of words to say. And I don't know about you, but I think that between the two of us, we could talk the paint off the wall.
Yeah, come on. Yeah. I'm excited about today's topic, though. I struggled for a long time and have had a lot of, hurts, habits, and hang-ups, hurts really from my childhood. So this is exciting to talk about today.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to start off with a core verse, Psalms 147:3, which says, He heals brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. And so it doesn't matter if you were in the womb or if you were 5 years old, 10 years old, 18-year-old, or even your adult trauma. We all have things in our past that we wish hadn't happened to us, but we do live in a fallen world and people do bad things. And even people with good intentions, sometimes it can be harmful. So, memories from our childhood that still shape us today. Triggers that we have that still responds. There was an amazing man who passed away several years ago, and I'll just his name to honor him. His name was Derek Faulkner. Troy, did you have the honor of knowing Derek Faulkner?
Did not. I've heard the name, but I unfortunately did not.
Oh my gosh, incredible brother in Christ, loved the Lord and so forth. But as a child, and I don't think that he would mind me sharing this because he shared this publicly before he passed, but as a child, he had I think it was a stepdad that would keep him from eating. And so whenever he ate, he had to eat real fast because he might not get any more food. And so that created a doorway, a stronghold in that. And so even later on in life, he would eat really, really fast, and it caused him a lot of problems physically. Okay. So there are things that have happened to us that cause a trigger. For many years, up until probably, I think 5 years ago, as soon as I walked into a place, whether it was a living room, wherever it was, a restaurant, I never sat with my back to the door. Never sat with my back to the door. I had to see what was coming in and going out. It's like protective mechanism. So then we don't want you or us or anyone else to have to live with that. And so, like we said, get you some good help, some CBT or DBT training or some EMDR or some of the things. Talk to your local counselor, whoever you are working with. But we are going to tackle this topic today. Okay. So do you think that some of the things that we do today, like the people pleasing or the fear of losing control, or those things, do you think some of that stems from our core years that we were formative years and when we were a child and the trauma?
Absolutely. So again, I'm very excited to talk about this topic today. It's something that is probably the biggest catalyst for my addiction. I grew up with, first of all, I was adopted. I was adopted within the family, but I was adopted. And then, so it was just me and my mother, which is actually my aunt. It was just she and I for 13 years. A great relationship. Wow. I had everything that I ever wanted. I was taught wrong from right. Phenomenal childhood. She marries when I'm 13. Super excited to have a man in my life. I'd never had any kind of a father figure. Very excited to have that father figure in my life. He very quickly became very abusive. And it's crazy that you said that about Derek. That's something that I experienced too, and I still to this day eat like I'm in the military. It was a little bit different, but a very similar situation. But I experienced a lot of mental, physical, emotional abuse, and then she was just wanting to keep that family unit together. I was, transitioning on to being an adult, and I dealt with a lot of abandonment issues, and yeah, man, it wasn't, we talked about on another episode like that. I had done work, and done it again and continue to do it. Like it's a never ending process. But recently I started seeing a therapist, and it's funny you said EMDR is one of them. I did EMDR as part of that.
Good.
Experience.
Yeah.
Yes, man. And it's crazy because like when you do EMDR, they have a setup appointment where you talk about, all of your stuff and kind of have a path that you're going to follow to do EMDR. And then you get your little paddles or whatever and have the light. And we're headed in one direction, and my brain would not go there. It went totally to something else, which was a great experience. And it was stuff that I needed to work through. And it was beautiful, man. I strongly encourage anybody to seek therapy if that's what you need. And if EMDR is something that can help you work through that stuff, please don't hesitate to jump in with both feet. It was a phenomenal experience for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, hey, if you don't mind sharing, how many EMDR sessions did you have before you were like, this is good?
Well, so
or are you still going through it?
Well, I took a break. I'm going to go back. I've done 4, okay. But I want to go back and continue. Scheduling conflicts just kept me from going. I will go back and do however many takes, but I've done 4.
That's good. Well, 4 is a good gauge, and you can take a lot of things down with that. I highly encourage y'all. You have to do what works. What works is when you're talking about, for those of you that are going, what is EMDR? Listen, when you have things that happen to you, your eyes can be in a certain place. Okay, like for example, I could be looking up and someone attacked me, right? Or in a car and you're looking down, like, oh my gosh, is the car going to stop? Whatever the case may be. And so we have, like we talked about before, our, being spirit, soul, and body, that body hangs on. Okay. And there's a great book, secular book. I encourage everything in the book with the exception of, I don't think you should practice yoga. I have a whole spiritual reason why. Okay. If you do, I'm not hating you. Right? I went through that. I went through the whole holy yoga, but there's nothing holy about something that was created to bow down to other gods. But anyway, I go back, and I'm not hating on you if you do. It's your personal conviction. You go to the Lord, study it out, look at the origins. But so in this book, they do talk about that as one modality, but there's one of many. There's a lot of things that we can do to calm our nervous system, to allow healing to take place. And so most of you know that, I've intensively had a lot of therapy, and I've given a lot of biblical counsel over the years, but there is something liberating and freeing when you finally know that thing is demolished. And so just briefly, we talk a bit about footholds, okay, and strongholds. And we didn't have this in our notes, but I just want to share with you that things that happened to you, whether it was, don't blame yourself. If something, many times as child, we take on, like, if I had done this, or if I had done better, or had I not done that, or had I not said that, I want you to just right now stop blaming yourself, okay? And even if you contributed in some way, right? Either way, you need to work through letting yourself off the hook and forgiving that person. Now, forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation, and we're not going to go into a heavy-duty teaching on forgiveness today. But we are going to talk about it in the future. So this is a really good one. You'll definitely want to know. But the reality is that we do things sometimes and we don't know why we do them. And they're from our childhood triggers and our ACEs, okay? So you had being adopted, right? I don't know a single person that was not adopted that has not dealt with father womb or a mother womb. Did you have to go through all of that?
Absolutely. And then even though, like I said, even though I had a great relationship with my mom and, it was a picture perfect childhood, I still had some issues with, why would my biological mother, not choose to keep me and things like that. Then the whole abandonment stuff, when, all that happened with my stepfather, it was like, a double dose, if you will, But again, working through it through, the rooms and the steps, and then, therapy. And it's funny because the therapy started because, and we talked off air about this, but the therapy started really because of compassion fatigue. And then,
Yep.
communication, like I just wanted communication with, my fiance at the time, but just my communication with everybody to be on a much more solid ground, and to make sure that everything that I'm doing is through him. So I got a therapist that is a Christian therapist, and yeah, I just it there's a lot of stuff that I didn't realize after working the steps several times and all that I didn't realize that I was still holding on to, but worked through or with her, which again started because of compassion fatigue, but ended up working through all this other stuff, and it's been, so, to use a word that you used a while ago, liberating and freeing, and just has put me in a much better headspace.
That's really good. That's really good. I went through a lot of the rejection and abandonment stuff because my father left when my mom was pregnant with me. He had another woman pregnant as well. And I was the baby of 9 kids, and he was going off with this new family. So there was serious rejection from all my entire life. And I looked at the world through the lens of rejection. And when we're talking about an orphan spirit, and some of you probably are going, what does that mean? Okay. We have the Father, the of the universe, who is nothing like our earthly father, nothing like our earthly fathers. And the Bible says in the Old Testament, it says, my mother and father may forsake me, but you're always there. I'm paraphrasing. Okay. The gospel, the word according to Maggie, go look it up. But anyway, I'll give you the scripture reference later. But we do that. Okay. We do that, Troy. Whether you had legit feelings of abandonment because of the adoption, but people who are not adopted still operate in a orphan spirit. And so I want to encourage you guys. There was a great book written by a guy named Jack Frost. He's gone on to be with the Lord now, but it's a great book, and it addresses that orphan spirit, and we can get there. And so when we are on fire, super excited, you guys are probably going, what's compassion to be? What is he talking about? Him and I was talking in the green room before the broadcast about, the Bible says, do not get weary in well-doing, for you will reap if you not. And we take that and we go so hard to the point where we're ready to faint. Okay. We're always there, taking that call, helping that person, connecting them here. And so a lot of that happens because we are so excited to see people get free. Yes. And now more than ever, people are more open about their strongholds and stuff, right? It used to be, and of course, we respect people that want to stay anonymous for whatever reason. We choose not to be anonymous, okay? Why? Because we feel like it does people a disservice. Not because if you have legit reasons, okay? If you are the judge, okay, and you've got a problem, I'm not here to do that. I'm here to say that we share our stories like you were sharing here about all of this. It encourages someone else out there who's going through that or gone through it or going to go through it. Okay. Because to be honest, those are the 3 things. We are constantly either going through something or just came out of something or going into something. So either way, it works for all of it. Yeah. But the reality is the reason we're doing these broadcasts, the reason we're having these candid conversations, and the reason we're not holding back, we're not here to say, oh, we have got it all together. We're here to say that it's a journey, not a destination. Is that not right, Troy?
Come on. Yeah. It's not like you said, it's not a destination. This is a lifelong journey. And I know that I'm going to work to be a better person every day of my life, and continue that for, until I take my last breath. But talking about how, we scream from the mountaintops of what we've gone through. It's because if I can help one person, then everything that I went through is not for naught. It is helping somebody else find a better way. I've found a way out, and I want to share it with everybody. There were parts of my story that I held on to that I didn't want to share for whatever reason that is not that way today. I want everybody to know I'm an open book, completely open, honest, and transparent, because I don't know what somebody that I may come across is going through as well, or that they may hear something that I've gone through that will help them. So Yeah, I don't hold on to any of it anymore.
That's really good. And then, and it's also, it shows the level of healing. Okay. I think that, we've talked before, and for those of you that have not heard the analogy, our healing is kind of like an onion. You cut it open, you look at the inside, and there's really thick layers. Those are the big traumas and the big things that have happened, obstacles in our life. But there's those little translucent pieces, or those teeny tiny pieces that are just like fall off, they just kind of fall off. So there's some things from our past that with time, when we start to understand that we were created on purpose, with a purpose, by the purpose maker, right? By the creator of the universe. When we get a revelation of who he created us to be and why, we start to look at things with a different perspective, and we put on a different lens, and we start to look at the things, that the shortcomings and the things that we've gone through, step stones. Or if you do not renew your mind, you will look at them as stumbling blocks. And we see it all the time. We see it all the time. I'm thinking specifically, and we don't have this in our notes either, but the guy at the pool, okay, for those of you that are Christians, what I'm talking about. He's at the pool and he's laying there, and Jesus is like, hey, what are you doing here? And he's like, there's nobody to help me. I lay here all day long, no one to help me scoop the mat over into the pool. And he's like, take up your mat and walk. Okay. So I don't know who that's for today, but pick yourself up. Stop using your past traumas and hurts to cause you to shut down and not take the necessary steps. You're not taking steps. You're using them as blockages. And so, and I know for a fact, because I was like that for many years. Many years. Matter of fact, when I teach, sometimes I'll use physical bricks and blocks with different traumas on them to show that when we build walls, think we're protecting ourselves. We're not. We're just locking ourselves in with the liar, the deceiver, who's trying to tear us up, instead of allowing light in to get free. So I'm sorry. I'm a little fired up today. Okay, a little fired up. I know some people that are going through some stuff, and I'm tired of people having their circumstances dictate how they feel and how they approach and so forth. So anyway, so this is the scripture I'm going to share. We shared the one in Psalms about he heals the brokenhearted. That means that, and binds up their wounds. That means if you are struggling right now, there is healing. Okay. There is healing. And we're not saying, just like a one and done healing. Healing can go on. It can be a while. Some people, maybe they won't even see the full healing or full manifestation until they're in heaven. Either way, healing is possible. But if you do what you always do, you will get what you've always had. Yes. And you've got to take a step. So we're encouraging you today to take some steps. So the other scripture also speaks to that in Psalms 34:18, and it says he is close to the brokenhearted. So right now, if you're struggling, you are, or maybe you had some sobriety under your belt, and all of a sudden, you slipped, and you're just like, oh, why bother? I can't do this. You can do all things through Christ. And so you have to dust yourself off, take steps, not stumbling blocks, and you'll get a level of freedom. And as you get some healing there on that, then you can address the next thing. Because I think that if God showed us everything that we had to deal with at once, we would end up in a straitjacket on the 7th floor of the hospital, because it's just too much. Okay, too much. I know, at least for me it was. So anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Troy. Talk to the audience a little bit about the importance of this.
Yeah, I was going to say, you were talking about those bricks and you using physical bricks to show sometimes. What we're doing with that is blocking ourselves off from the sunlight of the Spirit. And if we don't take steps and put in real work, then we're just going to continue to hold on to those things. And, all of this is about just drawing closer to Him, getting rid of the junk that you've been carrying around forever, and giving back. And, but there are steps to work through that. And by getting closer to Him, that is setting the path for you to be well on your way to recovery. But that, that's the first step, is realizing what you've gone through, and that your life is unmanageable, and that you need to draw closer to Him, and doing that, getting drawn closer to Him, like I said, puts you well on your way.
That's so true. That's so true. And it's really important too. Like, those things, first of all, we validate your pain. Okay. We know that what happened to you, what was said to you, what was done to you, or what wasn't done or said that needed to happen, that and so forth. We understand that, and we're not minimizing that. But we're asking you to take a look at those things and go get the therapy that you need to break free from those, because many times that is the rock holding on to your being catapulted balloon, you going up and out. Okay. I have a deliverance background, so I talk about up and out a lot. No. So,
Yeah.
but the reality is that if we would let go of our chains instead of going back and picking them up, there's a
Yeah.
scripture in the Old Testament that says, "Will a dog return to its vomit?" You know, I've got
Ooh.
animals here on the homestead, and it's gross. Okay, they will go back to their vomit. They'll, it's disgusting. You know, I'm like, ugh, freaks me out. But that's when we go back to that old mindset of nothing is going to change, or
Yeah.
I will always be a victim. And I'm
Yes.
telling you right now, if you get the help you need and start to work through some of the past pains and put those in the proper place, you will become victorious,
Come
and
on.
nothing will stop you. The only
Yeah.
thing that can literally stop you from getting free and going in the right direction is you, because you have to make the decision today. You know, you have to make the decision. Am I going to go to rehab, or am I going to do an IOP, or am I going to start attending some groups? Am I going to
Yeah.
go to therapy? Am I going to be accountable?
Yeah.
Whoa. Talk about that for a minute, okay?
Yeah.
No, we have a generation. People don't want to be accountable. Only God can judge me. You can't tell me what to do. I'm a grown woman. I'm a grown man. You get that? Do you get that a lot, Troy?
Yeah, it's funny. Everybody that knows me, I think I'm the funniest guy in the room. But one of the things that I say all the time is, "You're not my real dad." Well, nobody is.
Oh,
He is. But I say it to be funny. But I want to go back to you saying nothing changes until you begin to change. Nothing changes if nothing changes. If you stay stuck, if you're like the man at the well, and you stay there and you don't pick up your mat, then you're gonna stay stuck. But if you reach out, ask for help, and then be willing to put in the work, honestly, and hold nothing back, then there's literally nothing that you can't do, and a life is out there to be had that you never dreamed of or prayed for. Look, the life that I live today, I never ever could have fathomed it. And look, I was always very highly functioning. I had some really high highs, obviously some really low lows, but nothing like it life is today. Nothing like that. I just never would have dreamed that it would be as good as it is today. And it's all because of him, and me putting my trust in him, and me being willing to let go of all that stuff that I carried around for years and years and years, almost 30 years. But it wasn't until I picked up my mat and was ready to walk. And there is help for you out there today. You reach out to either one of us, or there's a lot of resources out there that weren't there for a long time. When I didn't really start to get sober until I was almost 40, but I remember kind of testing the waters a time or two when I was much younger, and there weren't the resources that there are today. Also, the stigma starting to be broken a little, lifted or broken a little bit too. It's
oh yeah.
not it's not what you think it is. It's not. People are going to help love you back to life. They certainly have in my life over and over and over again. They continue to today. I've amassed a support group of hundreds, if not thousands, and I lean on them, and I stay in the middle of the herd every day of my life.
That's good. That's good. You know, you're down in the trenches. For me, I work more on the prevention side of things now, after many years of like compassion fatigue, helping people and so forth. So what he has said here today is incredibly valuable, because he has said, even though he's been walking out sobriety for 5 years, okay, and had walked out previously in other situations, he's saying that you just had to say, okay, I'm good. Okay. For me, I've been walking in 1998 was the last time I used any type of substance. I was still hanging on to my marijuana. I did not want to give up my pot. Okay. I had issues with it. So. But because I thought I was responsible because I'd given up the hard stuff. But the reality is you do not have to live in bondage. You don't have to live in fear. You don't have to live in danger. And to be in addiction now is dangerous, because you can get weed laced with fentanyl. You can think, oh, I'm I'm just smoking a little bit of dope, whatever, and you could be dead. Okay. So do you see that a lot with accidental overdoses, with people coming in contact with things?
The second you said that, my heart dropped. I had two 18-year-old girls. I'm going to cry now thinking about it. 18-year-old girls that thought that they were just smoking weed that aren't here anymore. Look, guys. Sorry. Look, guys,
No, that's okay.
the stuff that's out there today is dangerous. You literally can't do anything today without taking the risk of it being laced with something. What we're seeing now is, they have the new kratom ban. It has been mind blowing, and we've been working around the clock since this happened, helping people that had never done anything in the world, and they thought, oh, this is at the gas station, it can't be that bad, and it's packaged in a flashy way, and I understand how that could happen. I've known since my walk in recovery that all that stuff is dangerous, and we get we're on the forefront of getting information that that talks about all that stuff, but the public by and large have not been educated about that stuff. That stuff was 15 times stronger than morphine with a 2-hour half-life. You don't know what that means. You take something 2 hours later, you're literally fiending for it again. And it's been nonstop around the clock since July 1st, helping people that had no idea what they were getting into and never done anything before, and trying this mess, and now, thank God, they're asking for help, because there is help out there. But to tie it back to him, have I seen the other two 18-year-old girls, man, that aren't here today because they thought they were smoking a joint.
Yeah. It is heartbreaking, y'all. And we're telling you, we know, okay, we're in circles with these people. We see these things all the time. The stats are real, and education is a key. And that's, part of the reason that we're doing these broadcasts. We're doing these broadcasts to equip you if you are struggling or love someone who's struggling, and educate you. But also, we want you to be ready and know the dangers of things out there. And what he's talking about, if you haven't heard of it, kratom was actually marketed in a way for pain. So people like me, do you see how many people could possibly be entering now into rehabs, not even knowing that they were addicted to it because they were taking it for pain? And like you said, people that didn't even have the drug culture. The things out there today and the weed and stuff, it's not your grandma's weed, okay? Stay out of it, all right? So if you like herbs, go get you some basil and make some tea. Okay, it's healthy for you. So anyway, listen, you guys, we could talk a lot about this, but it's important to deal with your inner child, okay, the things that happen to you. And it's something that I always found very powerful, and I tell people all the time, I actually am working on a collaboration with a lot of my confident women about, what would you say to your teenage self? As you are dealing with people, you know that at some point in your life, you were pretty messed up too, okay? If you're on the other side of it. You're in the place where you feel like you're messed up, there is the older version of you who wants you to get it together. So whatever it takes, okay? And so Troy, navigator in, what region are you a navigator in? Moore County, is that right?
I'm in Dyer County, and so we serve 7 hospitals in West Tennessee. My focus is on Dyersburg and Martin, but I help oversee all 7 of those hospitals. There's
help available.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And
if you're not, appreciate you guys so much.
Sorry, if you're not in this area, we know people that are in your area. I promise you.
That's exactly right. Getting help now is so much more readily available than it's ever been before. And like you said, Troy, the stigma's coming off. So we'll see you next time for another discussion. And we bless you and we love you. See you next time. Bye.
Love you guys.